Hello,
Hello, welcome to Not Another Who podcast. I'm Sam.
I am Chris, and we're at
Oh,
episode 13. Can you believe that?
Episode 13. Is it Unlucky 13?
Who knows? Let's get
Who
into it.
knows?
Today we actually have quite a bit of news, because in the last week or so, the world's got more and more on fire. Um, And we also have the review slash reaction to the story and the engine written by Inua Ellens. Um, First of all, how are you doing?
Very good. Um, my holiday went
Yes,
very
as
quickly
as they
indeed.
all do.
Yeah, 2 weeks has just flown by.
It's just not enough, is it?
No, could have do. I could have done with another couple of weeks.
Yeah, yeah. I feel that you kind of at the end of your holiday, you feel just about rested like all the start of your holiday you go, okay, I need to do this, need to do that, need to do this, and then by the end of it you're like, okay, now I feel relaxed, but then you've got to go back to work. It's a bit
Yeah,
of a one step forward, two steps back kind of situation.
yeah.
um yeah, very good. Glad you had a great time. I have been following the news because what else is there to do in life?
I'm glad someone
And
is.
yeah,
I haven't been
and
following the
we
news.
well, uh, obviously, I don't necessarily like going too political on this podcast, only when we need to. Last
Yeah.
week with Lucky Day, there was a lot of politics swirling around that. Um, and Doctor Who itself can dive into the subject matter. By the way, if you have any reactions to the episode, leave them in the comments or live chat us, and we'll read them out. We'll react to them.
Mhm.
But
Mm.
we sort of begin today because Donald Trump, the president of the United States, has unveiled or has announced that he's going to start putting tariffs on films made outside of the US. Now, it's not certain what is going to be tariffed, what isn't, or how the tariffs are going to work, but it has caused a massive uproar in the Doctor Who community, among Doctor Who fans, because Disney currently co-produce the series alongside Bad Wolf for BBC. But if the tariffs go ahead, it could mean that Disney are more likely to exit the series and stop funding it. Um, Although obviously it's only contained to films for now, there's no there's been no word of it being ruled out for TV productions, so it's in a little bit of a limbo state.
Mm.
But sort of what's your feeling on this new announcement and how it would impact the film and TV production over here?
Um, I didn't know it was actually a discussion in the Doctor Who fandom, but I did hear
Yeah.
about it yesterday, and I was like, "Oh, this could end pretty badly for
Mm, mm,
movies in general, um,
yeah.
especially our industry, which it." it's been on the steep decline for the last like 30, 40 years, hasn't it?
Yeah. Our current the current way that we operate our film and TV industry is we have smaller production companies that work for the broadcasters. So, for example, Great British Bake Off is
Mm,
a Channel 4 production that used to be BBC, but it's an independent production company, and the broadcaster funds them to produce the show for them.
yeah.
Um, and the same with, the reality TV shows like Big Brother or I'm a Celebrity, Get Me Out of Here. All
Mm,
the smaller productions or the ones that are less costly because you're not fiddling around with special effects or that kind of
mm,
thing. But the larger productions or more American studios have come over to the UK in the last sort of 10, maybe 15 years and uh set up ways to bring their productions to life more.
yeah.
It's clear that we've always had a relationship with US production companies.
Mm,
The first ever Star Wars was filmed at Elstree Studios,
mm,
Pinewood, I think Pinewood Studios, if it was, yeah. Um,
yeah,
so
I think it was Pinewood.
Star Wars has a deep connection to the UK. You know, uh, not even accounting actors or crew that worked on them, but just the studios itself made it, easier to film over here. Stanley Kubrick, uh, I think it was
Mm,
in sort of the latter end of his career, switched productions to the UK because he loved the UK. He moved over here. He moved all of his creative team over here and was notoriously afraid of flying, so he wouldn't go to the US unless it was, incredibly urgent. But he
yeah.
would do most of his productions over here. So the BBC have worked with the likes of Netflix or you know Disney,
Mm,
Warner Brothers, HBO.
mm,
The BBC have a big tie-in with these massive studios.
yeah.
Obviously, we've seen in the last day or so, Trump and Keir Starmer have announced a trade deal with the UK, which could include stuff like film and TV production, but
I hope
it's
so.
still up for debate. Yeah, I hope so too, because the thing is, the idea to get studios to make films in America again, they need to have some sort of reason why. The reason being at the moment is
Mm,
because it's too expensive to make productions in America. There's no tax
yeah.
incentives, there's no way of funding um American productions without, having a lot of money, basically. You can't just openly film in California. That's why, for example, in Canada, they film most of the X-Men films, Marvel films. Um, they also had in Atlanta, like Atlanta and Georgia, have managed to start, doing more productions there, but you know,
Mm,
that's just a different story. So I think we could see something happen in regards to Disney. I feel like the people calling that this is the definite end of the Disney deal are, I think, reacting to it too quickly because only time will tell.
yeah, we don't
Um,
know yet, do we?
exactly. I think it's best to wait until the end of the series and then see what state the world is in at that point because
It,
you know it seems
it
like every
chops
day
and
there's a new thing.
yeah, chops and changes every day really.
Pretty much, yeah. Anyway, I just thought I'd get that little discussion out the way. Unless there's anything you want to add.
No, you've talked about all the basics of that story,
Mm,
which I have kind of been following, but I didn't know it was discussed in Doctor Who land. So
yeah. Oh well, I'll definitely link you a couple of the videos I've watched on the subject.
yeah,
But you know, if it happens, it happens. If it doesn't, it doesn't. We don't know as of yet how it's going to go, but we'll just have to wait and see, won't we?
mm, yeah.
Anyway,
Unfortunately,
so this week's episode, shall we go into the NAWP leaderboard or shall we go into the episode first?
let's do the leaderboard first.
Oh, let's see our current rankings in the NAWP leaderboard. So there we go. The NAWP leaderboard so far. Um, I think they're pretty varied. Uh, They're not like I think it's pretty consistent.
Yeah, it has been pretty consistent with our rankings of the
Mm.
episodes so far.
Like I think I mean not every episode, as we know, has been great. And I'd say most of the time they've been good. You know, just a little bit off being great. But I think this series we're seeing a more consistent feeling in terms of just um how we go about it because I feel like with last series there was more to dislike because it just there was a vibe.
Mm. Yeah, there was. Yeah, it's a bit of a vibe with this episode. It was um at the start I found it quite confusing. Maybe after
Mm.
a few more watches it will make sense. Did you feel the
Well,
same?
we are going to
Or
be doing a mid-season a mid-season review at some point. Either some point next week we'll be releasing our thoughts on the series so far up until Lucky Day. Um because Story and the Engine kicks off the latter part of this series.
mm,
So but I'll get to my point. Um I I liked this episode. I did think it was a lot better than Lucky Day, personally,
yeah, it was definitely better than Lucky Day.
but it was it felt more of a vibes episode.
Mm,
And that's only because was the story, if you don't know, is the Doctor and Belinda land on Lagos, Nigeria, where the Doctor uses the Vindicator again
Mm.
to try and get more of a bearing. I think they're in 2019, and the Doctor goes to visit a particular barber shop, Omo's barber shop. Yeah, Omo,
Yeah.
played by Saul Rimmy, who
Hmm.
I have to say I did like his character.
Mm.
I think he played an interesting, conflicted character. The Doctor enters the barber shop and then becomes trapped. We see at the beginning of the story that they have to tell stories in order for the shop not to freak out.
Mm.
And then as we go along, it's revealed that and this was actually set up. Uh, there was a leak that came just before this episode came out, saying that this episode would feature uh, Anasi, uh, Nigerian folklore. Yeah. Anasi, often he is shown as a spider and a trickster derived from traditional Akan culture. Uh, he is usually the depiction of the consequences of your bad actions, even though his stories are based around humor. So,
Mm.
uh, Anasi is a sort of trickster god-like figure, a bit like Loki, kind of
Yeah.
where but this shop is like stories. You have to tell stories in order to fuel the barber shop.
Mm.
And it turns out that it's being run by the barber, uh, who's played by Arion Bakar, Bakar, who again reminded me of the Master.
Yeah. He did give me master vibes. He did, most definitely.
Like I like the idea that we had this kind of interesting. v- He wasn't a villain in terms of he wanted to kill anyone, but he just wanted ultimate power and
Mm.
power over the gods, and it was to do with his stories. He was telling the stories of these gods or keeping their stories alive, and then the gods took over his story engine and made it into something else. Um, the ideas are great. You know, there's a lot of great themes, great concepts, great ideas. I just don't think it's good in execution because I feel like to tell an hour-long story, well, I think it's 47 minutes, but to tell like
Yeah.
a 15-minute story, basically. Sorry.
Yeah. I think it was slightly longer than the last couple of episodes.
Yeah, it came in
By
around the
about
50-minute mark, I think.
yeah,
Whereas the other two, I think, were
about
um
42, 43 minutes.
yeah, definitely under the 45-minute mark. Um, but I kind of see this episode as a vibes episode. You get the vibe of it, you get the concepts. It's just
Yeah.
it does go a little bit confusing in how it's trying to
Mm.
represent all of these characters and stories and
Yeah. I've seen that a lot of that online that people were a bit disconnected from the story. They either liked it or didn't like it. But
Which I can
Um,
understand that. It's a bit of a Marmite episode, isn't it?
yeah, yeah. It's an episode that I like the concepts of the story, but I think it's going to take a couple of watches to get um get the story completely. Like Ghostlight
Mm.
um
Yeah, pretty
from
much.
season 26, which it takes a while to get your head round after the first watch.
But I kind of like those stories because I like ones where when you watch it back next time you pick up new things.
Mm,
Um I watched this twice today because after watching it the first time I felt negative about it, but I wanted to understand why I felt negative about it. And so watching it again made me realize, oh, okay, it's just because there's all these great elements, but it's not linked up so well, or it's just there needs to be something. It's almost like there's something missing, but I haven't figured it out yet. It's still,
yeah,
I think when we get to the end of the season and we go back throughout all the episodes, maybe I'll pick it up.
yeah, yeah.
Um,
I Yeah, I think this is an episode you have to watch quite a few times to get what it's talking about.
and I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing. I mean, the
No,
most,
it's yeah, it's not a bad thing. All the good stories um have this sometimes complex story um on top of it. Like
mm,
Ghostlight. I keep picking Ghostlight as one of the stories that it
and I
has
thought all the performances were quite strong as well. Like
mm,
all the actors were on point. There wasn't a melodramatic performance or um the episode felt like everyone was firing you know,
all cylinders.
on
Yeah,
cylinders. Yeah, yeah. Um, how did you feel about that reveal,
the reveal.
the fugitive doctor?
Oh, the future.
Yeah.
I might have messed that bit.
Did you?
Yeah, I think I've missed that bit.
Wow. Well, it comes because I need to go back.
They were
Abner.
playing all the doctors on the screen. Was it around that
Yes.
point?
No, it was, I would say, I think it was about halfway through. Basically, it was when Abner was talking to the doctor, and it was apparently the doctor. Anasi was Abner's father,
Mm.
and Anasi entered a bet with the doctor, and if the doctor lost, she had to marry Abner, or it was some
Oh,
it was along those lines, and then the doctor apparently either didn't win or cheated or something happened, and Abner and it the camera literally just turns. Pardon me. Sorry, I'm getting excited. The camera literally turns behind Abner and reveals it goes from Shooty talking to then the fugitive doctor talking.
oh, I missed that completely.
Wow. Well. you'll pick it up on a rewatch. I felt like treading on the timeless child ground was a little bit shaky.
Mm,
That was the bit of the episode I felt a little bit about, because I felt as if, okay, now you're completely confusing things by having the fugitive doctor make a reappearance without any setup or that kind of, you know. And also earlier in the episode, um, the doctor says that this is the first black body he's been in, and then Joe Martin's doctor shows up.
hmm.
I don't know
I'm
how I feel
confused
about that.
about that.
Yeah, this is what I
Yeah, it
mean.
was.
Is there's sorry.
Yeah, it. When he said that in the TARDIS, I was like, yeah, yeah, that that sounds like sounds all right. But then I was like, well, what about the fugitive doctor? I thought that was supposed to be the first doctor. Well, first
Yeah,
doctor.
yeah. Well, this
Um,
is the problem that I have, is that line of dialogue Shooty says at the beginning about him being the first black doctor. There was a part of me that thought, okay, it's a little bit of erasure because you're basically saying that Joe Martin's doctor didn't exist. And then when she shows up, I thought, okay, but that line doesn't work anymore. What's that line about? Um, but because we're still unsure about where apparently Joe Martin's doctor is meant to be before Hartnell, but it would make more sense for her to be the season 2B, not 2B or not to be, season 2B
this is the
doctor.
question.
That is the question. Um, I just got a flash of, like, imagine Tom Baker reading Hamlet's soliloquy. Got to do that at some point.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, I again, that's a bit of the episode that falls flat. Is you're saying that you're the first, but then Joe Martin appears, and Joe Martin's doctor is plagued with bad writing. So what does this all mean? I didn't know if they were just doing this for timey-wimey weird circumstances, or whether it
Hmm.
actually had a point or meaning. Um, but I think, you know, disregarding that, it was still okay as an episode. It still works
Yeah.
more or less. Um, I was a bit sad that they didn't use the cloister bell sound in the TARDIS.
Oh yeah. I was like, I was thinking, oh, they could have used the cloister bell when the TARDIS were going a bit. I don't know
I
what.
think that's
Yeah.
just the old nerd in us. That's just the the Who fan nerd in us, because to any other casual viewer, having an alert sound is just fine. But because
Yeah.
the Cloister Bell has such a resonance for Doctor Who fans, because it's such a integral part of the TARDIS,
Yeah.
it's almost like
It sounds a bit too Star Trek. The the
Yeah,
the red lighting and all that.
yeah. And then Belinda's trying to ask the TARDIS what's going like she's like, "What's TARDIS? What's going on?" And in the Moffat era, we had the TARDIS kind of subtly speak or do something to respond.
Yeah,
This time,
like
nothing.
like a button going down or one of
Yeah.
them.
Or the screen will say something, you know?
Yeah, or the lights change or something like that.
Yeah. So it just felt like Belinda kind of didn't really feel necessary in this episode, to be honest. Oh, Sam's gone. I'm
No,
on
I'm
my oh,
itching
there,
my
there,
leg.
there it is. Um, yeah, it just felt like there wasn't there wasn't a lot for Belinda to do in this episode, and she's meant to be the main focus of this series. And if we've only got 4 episodes left, three, yeah, 3 episodes,
Yeah, three episodes.
then literally every second of every episode has to count now.
Hmm. Yeah, I feel like I've not gotten to know quite yet.
No,
It,
well, I only know literally the basics,
yeah,
and we get that again
where
in this
she's
one
from,
when the
she's a nurse and all that.
yeah, and we get basically the same thing again in this episode when the
Yeah,
doctor's telling the story of Belinda. He's just like, yeah, and she was a nurse, and she was going home one day when she had to be dragged back in to help this patient, and then she helps the patient, and then the patient goes away, and I was like, yeah, okay. What does this story have to do with her character? Apart from showing us that she's a nice, caring, compassionate person, what's this got to do with absolutely anything?
yeah. When I seen that, I was like, you're treading on old ground.
Yeah,
I'm like, give
I
me
was
something
I was
new.
half expecting the hospital to then be transported to the moon.
Jadoon.
Platoon upon the moon. Um,
Barefoot on the moon.
barefoot on the moon. Honestly, whenever I have a stone in my shoe, when the doctor has that radiation in his shoes and he does that kicking. Yeah, that is literally what I do when I've got a stone in my shoe. Um, what that has to do with this episode, I don't know, but we went down a tangent.
Yeah,
Um,
we're allowed.
yeah, I don't know how I feel about this episode. I think overall it was a good episode. It might get better the more I watch it.
Yeah.
Um, the writer in Newer Ellums, so he's a new writer for Doctor Who,
Mm,
and I'm going to be honest, it was an interesting thing to bring him in as a new writer. We always like fresh talent, and for a first story, I think, I mean, it was better than Pete McTeague, let's be honest. Um,
he
but
could be the next
for,
showrunner one day. Never know.
he could, he definitely, I mean, I would
Yeah.
rather him than Pete McTeague. Um,
Oh, I was
but
on
he's
about
done.
Pete McTeague.
Oh no, no, no! I would genuinely rather the show get cancelled and put on ice forever. um, but there was a play or book I think it's a book that he turned into a play. Yes, it was. So in
Yeah.
2017, Inua Ellams made a play called The Barbershop Chronicles.
I was just about to say, it was part of a companion piece out of that play. I think
Oh, what do you
the
mean this story?
yeah, the story.
Oh, because I was thinking about it when I was looking at um when I was looking back at his work, I wanted to see what what resonance his previous work, whether it's fed into this episode,
Mm,
and seeing how he's done a an anthology play called Barbershop Chronicles, I thought that would have definitely some meaning to it. I need to go through it a bit more. I want to see if it's on, if there's any performances or any way you can
so
watch it, because I
it
do
was
have hmm,
it was performed at National Theatre in London.
National Theatre. It's because I've got Marquee TV, the theatre and arts um,
Mm.
streaming service, because I'm cultured, you know. I'm a man of
Cultured,
culture.
man of culture. Yeah,
I won't
I
watch
like
Star Trek. I'll watch the performance.
yeah, I like theatre as well. So
I think
yeah,
Star Trek could work as a theatre performance.
yeah, it
I'm
could.
surprised they've not done it yet.
Yeah, Star Trek the musical.
Exactly. Um, so I'm gonna look into the Barbershop Chronicles to see if there's anything that lies that you know uh has anything to do with this episode. Apparently, as you say, it does have some sort of reference. So it's interesting that he's drawing on his old work, and at the end of it, the premise of a barbershop in Nigeria and the stories, and it was very good.
Yeah, it
That
was
being
good.
said, what would you rank this episode out of 10?
Um, from vibes alone and what I could understand from it, I'll give it around 6 out of 10.
Okay, 6.
Mm,
I was going to go slightly higher. I was going to say a 7. Um, I mean, 3 points deducted for the sort of story elements alone. The fact that it kind of didn't really pace itself, like the fact that it's a vibes only story does rank itself lower, because I feel like for me it would have been better if there was some sort of beginning, middle, end, some sort of structure to this
yeah,
episode where it kind of it unfolded quite well. Every new thing that we were learning was
yeah,
interesting, but there wasn't
yeah.
anything,
It was.
it would have been also it would have been interesting if it was an anthology within an anthology, like, Doctor Who itself is an anthology show. So it would have been interesting if each story would have made you go there, kind of thing. I know
Mm,
budget wise it would have stretched, but it was good them talking about the stories, and it was good to have some sort of visualization, animation.
mm,
But I feel like they could have really pushed that concept a bit further.
yeah.
Um, and I like the fact that the titles, the shop window and the animation bled into the
Mm.
titles. Did you see that?
Yeah, I did see that bit. Yeah, I liked that.
I thought that was a really good, like, oh, that was perfect.
I was like, "Ooh, this is new."
I thought, yeah, I
It
was
was,
like, that's really interesting. And something different that Doctor Who does is, they're starting to play interesting with the titles now.
mm, it was basically
Um,
like a picture on the wall, wasn't it? And then it just like
mm,
slowly
and then
zoomed in.
yeah, yeah, and then you went straight into the titles. So yeah, I liked a lot of it. I liked the music as well. Murray Gold did a very good
Yeah,
score
I did
for
like
this
the
episode.
music. It'd
Oh,
be,
you've
or did I
you've oh,
freeze?
there you go.
Ah,
Didn't
um,
want a repeat of last week.
no. Um, what was I gonna say?
Music.
Yeah, it's one of them soundtracks that I would sit and just listen to on my earphones
Mm.
or
Well, I
in
felt
the
like there was
background when I'm
sorry.
doing something.
Mm. It was it had obviously a lot of African vibes. I think using wood, wooden percussion and
Mm,
woodwind sort of instruments.
yeah, yeah.
It
I did
felt
actually. I did like that vibe that Murray Gold was going for in this
mm,
episode.
and it was different to what we've had before. Obviously, we did have a reprise of the 15th Doctor's theme towards the end of the episode, but the vibe of the other tracks just felt very respectful of the culture, respectful of what they're trying to sort of portray. But it felt interesting that they were just going with this because to me this episode felt fresh in a way that previous episodes in this run have. Like,
Yeah,
yes, we've had the well, yeah, we've had I don't know, Devil's Cord, Wild, Wild, Wild Blue Yonder. Um, we've had episodes previously that feel fresh because we've not seen them in the same way before. But this felt like this felt way different to what Doctor Who is usually doing. But I felt it was a good direction to go. We need more stories like this where we don't just limit the culture to 21st century London and we actually
yeah,
expand it to one of the first Doctor stories, not just William Hartnell, but one of the first ever Doctor Who stories was Marco Polo in
yeah,
terms of, expanding on culture. So it's not something out of the wheelhouse of Doctor Who. It's not something that Doctor Who's never been afraid of doing.
yeah.
And I think that's definitely a way that we should be going as a community, as a series.
Mm.
You've frozen again.
Yeah, I have frozen again. I don't know what's going on. I'm sat right next to the router, so it can't be the internet unless my partner's playing games in the other room.
Who
Probably,
knows?
probably downloading a massive game, and it's just disrupted the internet.
It's all right. You're in telestat form.
Yeah, I'm in tele snap form.
We'll just do a reconstruction of your of you, but we'll just put subtitles over the top and yeah.
the
Okay.
scrolling past at the bottom.
Well, before we move on to final thoughts, let's have another recap of the leaderboard and we'll go on to final thoughts. Well, so Sam's still stuck in time and space.
Yeah,
Um,
I'm in chronic hysteresis. I
yes,
know.
a chronic
Yeah,
hysteresis romana.
no, I won't be in a
Would you
chronic
like a
hysteresis.
salami sandwich? What? Sorry.
I'm not in a loop in time, am I? So
I
I'm
was
just
thinking the time scoop from Five Doctors
yeah.
kind of thing.
I, I'm just
Um, he's
I'm
eating a
just informed.
salami sandwich.
Yeah.
Anyway, uh,
Uh,
so it's interesting how the first two episodes are 7 out of 10s. Um, and then the well, I think we both put it 9 out of 10, or you put a 9.5 just to be that guy. Um,
or
and
was it
then
8.5?
I
I
thought it was
don't know.
9.5. Let's play the leaderboard again. Um, yeah, and then Lucky Day, I think I gave it a slightly higher 5 out of 10. You gave it a 4. And then our thoughts for this one is you said 6, I said 7.
Yeah, I said 7.
Yeah. Um, so oh, I thought you said 6.
No, I said 6 for this episode. Well,
Yes, 6 for this one.
which episode? Which episode we're talking about? This episode.
Uh, Story and engine.
Yeah, I said 6.
Yeah. So we'll update the leaderboard for next week, and we will give our give we will do um and what we won't be doing this live stream, but we will record a mid-season review, pardon me, of Robot Revolution to Lucky Day. Because my plan is for us to watch the episodes a few times to see if anything changes, if we like anything, if our view slip, and then after the finale, we will be doing a ranking of the entire series to see where our thoughts go. If they've gone, if they have changed, if they've regenerated,
Or by generated.
or
Ooh.
bi-generated, you know. Um, because the idea is I don't want us to be too negative, but I don't want us to be too positive either. So I want us to try and approach it in a unbiased, fairly balanced way, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Well, you know me, I'm
So,
very unbiased of all
well,
things.
apart from Doctor Who from 1970 to 1981.
which is best era ever.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Anything else you want to add to this review?
I don't think so.
I don't think so.
Yeah. I think it's an episode I need to watch again.
I think it would be interesting to rewatch at the end of this series, to see if it has anything to do with the last episode, or because I feel like there's some themes that could play into the rest of the series and what we've been seeing so far. But whether or not it has anything to do with the finale, we don't know yet.
I
Uh,
I, I
I
have a
do though.
feeling that the episode so far will have like some repercussions later on in the season finale.
Hmm.
Maybe. We'll have to see.
Hmm.
We'll have to
Well,
wait
apparently the
and
French know
see.
what's happening in the finale.
The French?
Yeah. So I watched a video from Faries yesterday about the French dubbing for the finale has been happening at the moment,
Ah,
and there's been some lines that have leaked from the French dubbing that have been translated into English,
I've not
and
watched
they're
that video yet.
I if you don't want the finale spoiled, don't watch it. But if you do want the finale spoiled, or if you're happy to see something that could be considered legit, then give it a watch. I thought it was really interesting because before watching this episode, the lines don't necessarily feel they're just they feel like just spoken lines. Whereas with this episode in context, I think it's changing things.
Yeah.
So, food for thought.
I may watch it. I may not. We'll have to see.
I'll link it to you anyway. I'll send
Yeah,
you a link,
you probably sent it to me anyway, so
probably. Well, that was our discussion on the story and the engine. Sorry it wasn't as thorough or in-depth as our previous episodes have been. It's just because this really relies on vibes than it does on the story being the main focus.
yeah.
Obviously, if we've missed anything, please comment below. Give us your thoughts. What did you think of this episode? Where would you rank it? What out of 10, what are your thoughts? Uh yeah, thank you very much.
See you later.
See you later. Uh